Hello, Redhawks. This is IDTT coming to you with a tutorial on how to use the new attendance taking feature that we've activated within Canvas. A couple things to go over, some general items before we get into how to actually take attendance. One thing you'll notice is that in your course navigation menu by default now, you'll see an option called Attendance Plus. The software we have is called A+ attendance. So we wanted to differentiate between Attendance Plus and attendance. Both will by default show up. Attendance Plus will usually be down here more near the bottom. And the attendance feature, which is native to Canvas, will still show up as well. That's something that we can't eliminate from that menu. But we wanted to make sure there was a differentiation between the two. The reason we have Attendance Plus is it does a better job of, or does not a better job, it communicates in general with Banner to help some of the attendance taking processes we have a little more simple, whereas attendance is just something that lives within Canvas, lets you mark students here or not here. Everything that attendance does, Attendance Plus does as well, in addition to some other things that will make it a useful tool for us to have available. The other thing to know is when you use Attendance Plus, everything that you should need to take attendance, so the meeting dates and times and things like that should all be imported from Banner into the course, so you shouldn't have any setup to do. Just all of your class sessions should be there automatically. If you find that's not the case, or if that you need to make some edits to that, please contact us and we can help you get those types of things set up. So with that being said, how do we actually use Attendance Plus? So we will click on our course navigation link to go to Attendance Plus. It'll take a second for it to load. Initially, it might ask you for a few items to authorize a few things. Once we get started, you can just go ahead and approve those things. You may see this screen, this attendance setup screen. Initially, at least, we can go ahead and just okay that. We don't need to necessarily do anything with that at first. We will come back to that screen here in a little bit to discuss what's going on. So at the most basic level, you just want to get in here, take attendance and be done. We'll go over how to accomplish that. There are a couple different ways to get to the same place. It's just a matter of preference, how you have that set up. Before we even get to that, you can adjust the time frame that you see. So if you want to see just day by day, if you want to see weeks, if you want to see a month at a time, you can make all those adjustments here. I believe by default, it's just set to 1 week. If you just want to work from the screen, you would click on the day you want to take attendance. I'll just pick a random day here, and then it will bring you to your roster. And then you can go through and select the absent students for that class period. And then from there, if you don't want to select every single student, you can go up to the top and click on attended for the rest, and you're good. I had already had a comment in here that I realized I forgot to delete. If you want to leave a comment about why the student wasn't there, or maybe like in the situation, the student contacted us after class. Maybe the student emailed and said they were sick. So I could leave those comments there if I like. I don't have to put those in there at all. It's just a matter of record keeping. You also notice that there are more than just absent and present. You can also differentiate specifically that they were sick, or you can say absent other. That might make more sense to use the comments, or if you wanted to keep track if they came in late, you could do that as well. For the majority of people, the attended and absent no reason will probably be the two that you need, but these other ones will count as absent as well for attendance taking purposes. If you're going to use this for a grade potentially, they all work the same way. Once I have everybody accounted for, I can go ahead and click save. While we're in here real quick, we could also fill all the attendance first, and then go through and mark students that were not in class, and then save it from there as well. Either way will work. Then you'll see those are all recorded, the attendance for the week, how many out of how many they've been at. You can see all those types of things. Similar way to get to the same place We can go to sessions, and then you can see every session that's scheduled. Again, this should all be imported in from Banner. You should not have to do anything with setting these up. Mine looks a little different because this is just a sandbox course. I had to import my own timetable. You should not have to do any of those types of things when you're taking attendance. By default, you'll be in the calendar view. You can go to a course and click enter attendance. It will take us back to the same place that we were. Same thing, just different way to get there. I can go to list view, and it will show all the session dates that I have set up. I can choose one, click enter attendance, and then go through and add everybody there as well. So all those are viable options for taking attendance however you wish to proceed. With getting to that screen is completely entirely up to you, but those are the three ways you can get there. You can either go from the students tab and click on the date. You can go to sessions and go to the calendar and select the date you want, or from the list, and same thing, select from the date you wish to enter attendance. Again, I'll do the same thing, just different ways to get to the same place. The other menus up here across the top, ignore these over here. It's not something we're going to have to get into at this point for any reason, because everything should sync like it's supposed to. If it doesn't, again, that'd be a reason to contact IDTT. The other one that you probably won't have a lot of reason to access is this tools menu. Again, you don't need to do anything with adding sessions or timetables. Leave that alone. It'll probably cause more problems than it will solutions. So that's a menu we can pretty much ignore. If you feel like, again, there is a reason to use that, that'd be something to contact us on. The attendance setup, which I alluded to earlier, again, like I said, everything's coming in from the SIS or from Banner. So there's not a lot for us to do in this screen. The only thing that you might want to turn on is the record attendance as an assignment. So if you want to give points for an assignment grade, then I can turn this on. It gives me a place to name it. By default, I think it's just called attendance. And then you have some options for calculations. Record attendance proportionally basically lets you assign points. Students will then be given 100 points, and then if they have absences, it will count off, all absences being the same. The flip of that, record as raw points. You would put in your total points and the weighting, and then it will start to add points as students attend classes as opposed to the other way around. And then there are two here set up for penalty rules. My understanding is these don't work if you're using any sort of a weighted grade. So if that's something you do, then you want to stay away from those two. If you don't, then by all means, you could pick these. But again, these just allow you to set up rules based off of attendance to inflict some sort of penalty as you go through. So if I just wanted to take a percentage off the final grade, I could go here. I could click add deduction rule. After so many absences, deduct a certain percentage from the grade. Very similar but slightly different would be points impacted on weighted attendance. This one would use, if you want to weight your attendance a little bit more, again, I would give this a set number of points, say 100 or whatever you choose, and then I could add deductions. So after 2 absences, maybe I want to take away 5 points. And then after 4 absences, I want to take away 6 points per absence, let's say. However you wanted to set that up, you could do that. So any of those options will work. I will include a link in the description to some information directly from A+, their explanations of how to use those if you want to get into that a little bit more, or you can contact us and we can work through it as well. So I'm going to go ahead and apply that assignment. You won't see the assignment pop up until you take attendance the first time. So if that's something you want to do, it's better to do that before you start class, because it doesn't do going backwards. So if you took attendance for 2 days, realized you wanted to turn that on, those 2 days aren't going to get counted in that grade based off the tests I've done and the information I have so far. So that is an option there. Everything else in this attendance menu, again, you probably won't have a whole lot of reason to use. So going back to our attendance, Again, by default, we will typically land here, the last menu that we were on. The other feature that you might want to implement into your course is codes. Codes essentially is a setup where A+ assigns a code to each class period for that week. You can see you can't see codes outside of the classes scheduled for a given week. Then you could give this code to the students, post it someplace, write it on the board, and then they go into their attendance, which I'll show you here in a second, punch this code in, and then it would mark them either absent or present. Obviously, there's some benefits to this. There's some drawbacks, which we'll kind of talk about as we go through here. By default, it's going to open this window during your class time. If you think that's too long, it does give you some options other than the default method. You can go in and you could specify the window. So maybe the first 5 minutes or 10 minutes of class, you could go through and adjust that. This is something that needs to be updated on a regular basis. So it is a little tedious as far as that's concerned. You can also go in and set it to a manual control. So you might just want to say, hey, you have 2 minutes, here's the code. Maybe that prevents students from, texting the code to somebody that might not be in class that day. Obviously, you want to do your due diligence and kind of do a scan, make sure everything looks like it lines up like it's supposed to. And you can set this to be however many minutes you'd like, start the timer. You could stop it early if you'd like, or you could just let it expire. At that point, the code would no longer be valid and you could use it. You can also just completely disable it. So maybe you want to turn it off for whatever reason for that day. You can do that. You don't need to do that if you don't plan to use it at all. You do not need to go in and disable. Obviously, student never has the code, no reason to really disable the screen in that situation. The student side of this, would be from this screen, the student screen. They will also have an Attendance Plus if you have it turned on, obviously, in their course navigation. They would go to Attendance Plus. They would choose the day that they're on, and then there would be a link. This one is not currently live because I messed with the settings as we were talking about it, but they would click here and then a box would pop up to input the code, and they would press submit, and then that code would show up and show that they took attendance for the day. So that's an option if you should choose to use it, obviously, completely and totally up to you, but that's how that system works. The last thing that you probably would want to understand or have access to is in reports. You can go through and get a glance at the attendance for a variety of different setups. By default, it's on summary. On summary, it'll show you how many classes they attended, how many they missed for no reason, or any of the other codes that you've used. This will show you which dates they were in class, which dates they missed, the last date of attendance, if you needed to find that and you've been taking attendance. And then the attendance by sequence might be the other one you want to see. This will show you like each class. So instead of by date, it'll show you first class, second class, third class, fourth class. Those would be sequenced out for you to see who was there at certain times. So you might have use for those, you might not, but again, it gives you some different options for how you see what a student's attendance looks like. Outside of that, that's kind of all the basic features that you need to get off the ground and running. Again, if you have problems or you have something specific you'd like for this to accomplish, contact IDTT and we can see if we can get it set up to do what you'd like it to do. It does have a lot more options than what we've had in the past, but it's pretty simple to use, being that it's integrated right into Canvas, and everything's pretty simple, especially if you're just trying to take attendance on a day-to-day basis. Hopefully that was helpful. Again, as always, if you have questions, contact IDTT. Have a great day.